and I had a little, one of those Bissell little green.
Well, good morning, everybody. It's been a little bit since we've uploaded a video to the channel, but had some free time this morning. It was raining and couldn't get much done outside, so I decided I'd come in and do a little update video, show you what's been going on in the shack and the workshop here as far as amateur radio goes, and got some new acquisitions that I've bought and traded for, and been trying to work on them and get them back into service. So first thing here is the this little S-38B. I got it in a trade from a guy. I had bought 3 radios back in the spring from a guy near me, an S-40A and 2 SX100s, and the last video was of the S-40A playing some shortwave and some amateur radio during field day, and that radio had developed a problem. It needs a recap. I was told that it had been recapped, and I didn't thoroughly investigate it before I started using it, and of course it hadn't. And apparently one of the capacitors, or apparently a resistor, was pulling high current because the wax started melting out of the transformer. It did not short the transformer, but it was getting extremely hot. So I took it out of service for the time being. And the other 2 radios, the SX100s, one is a Mark II Hallicrafters SX100, and it is in remarkably clean condition. It does need a full recap and electrical restoration before I put it in service. It does work. It does receive. I tested it out for just a few minutes just to make sure there was no major problems with it. It does work. The other SX100 was, I believe, a Mark I, but it was in really, really rough condition. The chassis on it was very corroded. The front panel was in pretty bad shape. It was going to need a lot of work, and I was just kind of, it was the radio that was sitting closest to the bench, so I just I said, you know what? Let's play into some of Mr. Carlson's videos, and let's just see if it'll work. So I plugged it into my isolation transformer that is variable. The voltage is variable on it to an extent. It doesn't go, it'll go from 125 volts, and it'll go down to about 40 or 50 volts. It's an old Heathkit transformer. But anyways, I plugged it in. I had a current limiter on it, a dim bulb, and I said, you know what, let's just see what'll happen. So we fired it up, and I hooked a speaker to it, and tube started glowing. No smoke, no crackles, no pops. So we started bringing the voltage up on it, and after some fiddling with the speaker, getting it on I actually had to put the speaker on the high impedance output, the 5,000 ohm output of the radio, to get this an 8 ohm speaker to work. Once I did that, it worked. Was receiving AM, would pick up sideband CW. Was actually doing a pretty good job. But like I said, the cosmetic condition and the mechanical condition too was in really bad shape. So I just posted a little short video to a Facebook group, and it was like, this radio looks like you dug it out of a junk pile. It had been sitting out in someone's garage for the last 60 years, and lo and behold, it works. American made quality. You can't find that kind of stuff today. And long story short, a guy said, "Hey, would you be interested in selling it?" Anyways, me and him worked out a deal. He had this S-38B that he had recapped, and so we worked out a deal, and I sent him the SX100, and he shipped this to me, and got it home, plugged it in, and you know, it was working fine. There was some few little quirky things about it that didn't seem right. You know, the CW reception on it was really low. You had to turn the volume, crank the volume wide open to get to be able to hear a CW note. And there were parts of the bands that were just completely dead. I mean, you could scroll through them and you wouldn't even get a noise floor. So anyways, I messed with it for a couple of days there, and I said, you know what, let's just take it in the shop and put it on the bench. I need to do an alignment on it, and you know, get everything back up to spec on it. So I pulled the bottom off of it, and he had recapped it, done a pretty good job on it. Everything looked pretty good, and I started doing an alignment on it, and I noticed that the rectifier tube was just, I mean, glowing red hot. And it's a 35Z5 rectifier tube on these radios. And it was smoking hot. So I knew something was wrong. It shouldn't have been running that hot. So I got to doing some checking, and I found out that there were some resistors that were not where they should be, as well as someone had daisy chained two dial lights together. There was the original dial light that fits in the holder behind the panel right here. But internally over here by your main tuning capacitor inside the radio, someone had put another dial light in there with another 12-volt bulb, and had spliced it in series. And that got me scratching my head even more, because there should only be one dial light according to the schematic. And did some more checking anyways. I found out that apparently at some point in time, someone had removed, there's a 330 ohm resistor that goes on the filament of the 35Z5. And someone at some point had removed that resistor, and I'm assuming to bring the voltage down, they had added an additional dial light to the radio. However, the dial lights were wired in series with the filament. No, they were wired in parallel with the filaments, and the one dial light was completely gone. The original dial light here, it was blown. It was toast. The other dial light was still good, but after checking it and going through it, I hooked the dial lights back up the way the schematic showed, or the way I thought the schematic showed. However, I interpreted the schematic wrong. Anyways, ended up 2 rectifier tubes later, because I kept roasting the filaments in them from pulling so much current. I finally, this last time, I unhooked the dial light completely. I reinstalled that 330 ohm resistor and put everything back together, and it is working exactly as it's supposed to now. Everything is back up. I checked all the voltages. The voltages across the filament for that tube is running about 34 volts now. Prior to that, they were at 109 volts, I think it was. But I'm going to leave the dial light undone for a while. I don't really need it, because the shop's lit pretty good, and this is where it's going to stay for a while, because it is a hot chassis radio, and I want to get a polarized line cord for it. Right now it's still running through my isolation transformer, but it's a really good little radio. It's got really good receive on it. Once I did an alignment, the IF alignment was off on it just a tad, and several of the bands were off, but I put it back in alignment, and it works really good. I don't know if y'all can hear that or not, but it's on AM. It's on the broadcast band right now, and we only have one local AM station that is that broadcasts with any amount of power during the day, because it's don't mind that clock there, the red one. The batteries are about dead in it, but it's about 9:20 in the morning, and this is local radio, about 12 miles away. We get a lot of static during the day though. Noise floor comes way up on the AM band around here, and then this is picking up. I normally would run it through a dipole or my big loop, but my big loop is unhooked right now. So this is running actually through a 2-meter J-pole that I use on my 2-meter VHF. So not the most ideal antenna situation, but it's working. I got a few things on the shortwave band this morning, but it's kind of a down right now for me in this area. Propagation is just not the best, probably because of the weather we're having. We got some thunderstorms. It's been really humid for Thanksgiving this year. It was 94% humidity Thanksgiving Day and 82 degrees. Anyways, it's working. It works good. CW is really surprising on this radio, because a lot of reviews say that this is it was the lowest, one of the lowest price models Hallicrafters had. It was an entry level, and for shortwave listening. But the CW on this thing is really good. It's not very selective in that you have the ability to weed out stations that are, within a couple of, kilohertz of each other. But it's very sensitive. You can pick up a huge amount of stations with it. In fact, last night, once I got it going, I was scrolling through 80 meters, and I mean, it was on fire. Like every place in the band in the CW portion, there was just stations galore. And like I said, though, there was no selectivity. You couldn't. It was very hard to single out a one station and tune it in, because one, the tuning on this thing is just super fast. As you can see, in a half of a dial movement, it goes from the full spread of the band scale, and your band spread, it's pretty rapid tuning as well. I don't know exactly how many kilohertz it does, but it does a fair amount. You could just bumping the dial one way or the other would knock you over 3 CW stations. So but it works, and I can't complain. It's a little rough looking. The dials are really nice internally. They're really nice. They're still the great Hallicrafters green color that this is looks so cool, as they say. So this knob here had some issues, and somebody had JB welded or epoxied it, or I don't know what they done. Anyways, I ended up having to drill through to the set screw on it, and then I had to drill the center out of it to get the whatever that was. JB weld is what it looked like to me, to release. So I've got some ideas on how I'm going to fix that in the future. So we'll take a look at that. Hopefully we can get some more videos going. Like I said, it's been a while. life has met amateur radio, and life took over. So been kind of slack around here, and haven't really been doing a lot of video or thinking about it. But anyways, that's the newest thing that we've got going. I just did a recap on I've got a S120 as well, and I took it in the house the other day to use it to replace, let's see if I can get you around here, to replace this radio, which is the GR78 Heath kit, and it is it's another radio that I acquired a while back, and the original power supply, the AC power supply for it was jury rigged, shall we say. Yeah, they were using a computer power supply taped inside of it, and it was, oh my goodness, it was noisy. So I took it out, and the capacitor was shot, so I put some caps in it, and the internal battery was shot as well. So I took it out and made some slight modifications and just run a DC cord out with some little clip leads on it, and I've just been running it off a little 12-volt a battery, a little 7-amp hour, like you'd find in a security light, is where it came from. But that had been in my house kind of as a little shortwave listening when I was, just inside. And I took my S120 in to replace it, and turned it on, and within about, I don't know, 2 minutes, it started acting really funny. Started getting a lot of static and hash and everything, and then the next thing I know, boom, blow up she went. Stinking, smelling, and went over there and unplugged it real quick, turned it off. It was on a power strip, so all I do was just switch it off and unplug it. And I brought it to the shack and opened it up, and dun 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 dun. Let's see if you can see this. Yeah. Dun 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 dun. Mr. Bumblebee capacitor. He let them go. He come from together. So that was a radio. Another one that I'd bought, I don't know, probably, Lord, 4 years ago. I got 3 of them. A guy on eBay had them. He had 3 for one money, and I bought all 3 of them. That was the prettiest, nicest looking one that came, and I plugged it in, and there was no hum. And at the time, I knew nothing about vacuum tube radios and capacitors, so it just worked for a long time. And it started getting some funny stuff going on with it, the hash and the noise, and I unplugged it and just put it up. At that time, I was becoming aware through my learning and education through YouTube videos and watching several guys on there, and I knew that bad things were fixing to happen, and didn't know how long it would be. And then, like a big dummy, I went and plugged it in again, and end of life for the little capacitor. But no worries, we recapped it, put new capacitors in it, and put some new filter caps in it, disconnected the old filter cap because I didn't have a canned cap to replace it with, so I put in some Nichicon axial caps, and got it back to working. Did an alignment on it, and it's back in the house. We'll show you that sometime, and it's working pretty doggone good. However, the AM noise around the house on the broadcast band is horrendous. So AM doesn't do all that great, but shortwave does fairly well, enough to keep me occupied when I'm not out here in the shack. So some other things that are going on. This radio right here, you can see it. This one right here. I got this one probably 5 years ago. It's an RCA 68 R3, I believe. Yeah, it's an R3. It's an AM/FM set. Bought it from a lady. It was her family's. She said it was working one day, and then it just quit, and nobody done anything with it. And she had it for sale. Probably paid too much money for it, but it was kind of cool looking, and I bought it, and I've been going through it. It needs a lot of work. There's a lot of rotten wires in it. The rectifier tube in it was toast. Lots of capacitors. I've just about done a complete recap on it. Let's see. I'll show you the underside. As you can see, we've been working through doing some recaps on it, trying to get everything back in order. Got some resistors I got to replace. I found there's a mica capacitor that has got to be replaced as well. In there, the power, a lot of it's around the power supply, which is typical from what I understand. So, still got a ways to go, but we're getting there. Still got a few more capacitors to replace, but just been working along on that one as I get time and in between other stuff. Not a real high priority. Let's show you the case. That's the case for it there. The case is in really good shape. No cracks, no chips, no nothing. Most of the lettering is still pretty good on it. I don't know if you can see. You can see a little bit there. Back during the summer, I acquired this National 183. And I believe it's just the 183. I don't believe there's any letters. I mean, if you can see there, the decal just says 183. And I haven't really looked inside. The guy I got it from actually had it sitting out under his carport playing when I pulled up, which scared the heck out of me, because this line cord was basically 2 strands of wire with just enough insulation to keep them from touching. And anyways, picked it up, and we're going to work on it and get it back in shape. But it was working. I mean, it was playing an AM radio station, hooked to nothing. Actually, he didn't even have an antenna hooked to it. He had a speaker, a computer speaker hooked to it, nothing else. So it needs some work too, because the transformer in it was pretty worn. So got some other stuff on the shelf here. Going down, you can see this is an ICO transistorized power supply that took a dump on me, and been trying to. Well, I'm going to rebuild it with LM317 transistor and get rid of those 2 RCAs that were in it, and get it to a positive, where it regulates on the positive voltage instead of the negative. And well, that's another work in progress. Got some more stuff kind of hidden in the shelf here. Is a ComSat 20CB, and this is a Hallicrafters S-107 that I got. It's on the docket to be worked on. If you go on down, that there is actually, that right there, that's my dad's CB that he had back in the 70s, and it is a Courier 12. Not a Courier 23, a Courier 12. And I could not find any information on it. I found 2 ads, and a gentleman was kind enough off of a Facebook group. He sent me a manual for it and a schematic. And then I've got an ICO. Beside it is an ICO signal tracer that I'm working on, and then a precision signal generator that's got to have some work done to it, and some other stuff. And this here is a Supreme signal generator 189, and I got this and that ICO came together from a gentleman, and went through and I recapped this thing, and I followed the very, very simple alignment procedure for it. And it is the best signal generator I've ever used. It is, you can turn it on, and as soon as it warms up, it is dead on frequency, within a few hertz, and it stays there. It does not move. The only issue I have with it is this pot for your attenuator. Even though it has been cleaned, it is scratchy. So don't really know what I'm going to do with that. I use the multiplier to cut my signal most of the time. So right now it's just working. I've cleaned it several times and it's still scratchy. So, but this signal generator is very, very stable and very, very accurate. Puts out a very clean 400 hertz audio tone, and I'm really super impressed with it. Down here is a Heathkit G5 signal generator, not an S, not the S5 or the SG5, but a G5, and I recapped it as well. Got the audio circuit working in it. It uses a neon bulb to generate the audio in it, and recapped it, and it is as accurate as a Heathkit can be. It's pretty accurate in the low frequencies, 455 kilohertz, up to about I don't know, probably around 1.5, 1.5 megahertz it starts getting a little iffy. It's accurate to an extent, but you get some deviation. And from what I understand, that's kind of typical of these old Heathkits, but it works fairly well. I've used it a couple times on different things, but it is not the Supreme by any measure. It is not the Supreme. That's the one. That's my go-to. So, but anyways, as you can see, got a lot of stuff on the bench. That's kind of just cycling through. Been doing a little bit of radio as well, with the ICOM IC730. I did take my fan dipole down. I took all the elements off except for the 40 meter element. I left it on, and I've got a little MFJ tuner that I've been using to get on some of the other bands, mostly 40 and 20, 80 meters. It'll tune it, but the efficiency is so low. I put 100 watts out. It's probably, judging from the signal reports that I've got compared to the 40 meter signal reports going to some of the same areas, my power is about a quarter of what it should be on 80 meters through the tuner. And that's simply because of the inefficiency of the antenna, because it's not resonant. It's only resonant on 40 meters. I think I've got it cut to be resonant at 7.23 or 2.5. So 20 meters does fairly well. It still does pretty good. I haven't tried anything on any other bands. Like I said, 40 and 20 is just kind of where I've been. That's kind of my go-to bands here lately. Don't do much in the way of digital stuff because the 730 isn't, you know, computer friendly, and I don't have a external sound card like a Signal Link or, you know, one of those little deals from Tigertronics or or anything to patch the audio into the computer for digital modes and provide a transmit relay. But anyways, just been doing single sideband. Did a little AM with it back on 40 meters on 7290, and talked to a guy in Maine on AM with 100 watts. He was running, I think he had 800 watts. That might be wrong. I remember he was running a Gates transmitter. I don't remember his wattage, so I want to say it was 800 watts. It might not have been. But he was 20 over to me, and I was pinging him at a S8. So I thought it was pretty good for AM. It was a good night for AM. You could hear AM stations all over. So I'm using my phone to record these videos, and it has a file size limit, which is right at, I think, 29 minutes of video length. So it just cut off. But to finish what I was saying, propagation that night was exceptionally well. Talked to several guys around on AM and got some really good signal reports, and everyone said the audio from the little IC 730 was exceptional, which makes me feel good because I bought that radio with without knowing anything about it. It was not hooked up, not working. It was the ex-wife of a Silent Key, and she was tasked with getting rid of all his stuff, and she didn't know anything about it, and I didn't either. I took a chance on it, and it works. It does really good. I've been really happy with it. Probably keep it forever, just as a backup radio. So, but anyways, well, that's what's been going on here. Like I said, we're going to try to put together some more videos of some of this stuff being worked on and tested. Not necessarily for everyone to watch, but for me as a reference, because a lot of times I do stuff and I have to go back and say, no, what the heck was I doing here? And it'll be more of a video log for me, and maybe some people can get some good stuff out of it as well. So with that being said, hope everyone had a happy Thanksgiving, and we will catch y'all on the next video.
And if someday you should decide you want me,
The storm surge occurred 7 p.m. This